Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Argon. So you might be considering either just starting out in the game or taking advantage of the current event to level up a character and get additional rewards, as we currently have active the Neverwinter's Recruitment event. So whenever you go to level up, you'll get one of these nice little recruit boxes. You'll open them up and you'll get a unique reward, and you'll get then the second box, which will entice you to get to the next level to open and get another reward. So in this video, I'd like to answer the question of which class is the fastest to level up in Neverwinter, at least from my opinion and my experience in the game, and on top of that go over the current bugginess with the event and potentially something you might want to keep in mind and you may have already been missing out on it. You might want to restart leveling. Now the main thing you will be doing when you're leveling up is just killing groups of enemies. So the class that can do that best is of course going to be the class that can get through leveling the fastest. And which class is that? Well, let's find out. But before we get started, I'd like to give a massive thank you to all of these channel members for the continued support, and let's jump into things. So Neverwinter will initially tell you to choose a race, and really it doesn't matter. However, you could look at certain races depending on what class you want. For example, in endgame, going with a race which gives you a bonus to offensive ability scores, that's power, that's accuracy, combat advantage, crit, and crit severity, is highly advantageous when trying to min-max. So if you intend to play as a damage dealer, try and choose a race that gives a benefit to offensive stats. For example, a human, a dragonborn, half-orc, gith, wood elf, and that's about it. There is additionally the tiefling, but unfortunately it's a little bit underwhelming and I would take it more as a tank due to its infernal wrath. And of course there is the basic dragonborn as well, very good for DPS. So we'll start out here and then you have 9 classes to choose from. Which one should you take? And if you just want to level up really quickly to take advantage of the rewards, I highly recommend a rogue. And we'll go over the reasons why very shortly. So once you've chosen your class, you continue and you choose your ability scores. Now, the best ability scores is strength for a physical damage dealer, anybody with a physical attacking weapon, it's pretty self-explanatory. Constitution just for tankiness, dexterity for a bit of movement and also offensiveness, intelligence for your extra magical damage, wisdom is for that healing, and charisma is overall benefit everybody. Safest bet is generally to just go with dexterity and charisma. If you know what damage dealer you are, if you're doing physical, take strength and dexterity starting out. You might want to switch to charisma later on in endgame, and the same with a magic dealer, go with intelligence and dexterity and switch to charisma potentially later on when your crit severity is capped. Then you continue and you'll just mess out throughout your entire appearance. Continue from there, you'll choose one of these deities. Doesn't matter, doesn't impact your gameplay at all. Click continue, you can choose a random name and you can begin your adventure and you'll start out at level 1. And that's it. Good luck in the game. Now the reason why it's very particular that I choose a rogue as the fastest class is because it has the ability very early on in the game to have an AOE Encounter Power, which is unique to most other classes. You'll first go speak to your NPC and then you'll grab your weapons and we can show you. First you have to make sure to accept those weapons and then double click on them in your inventory. That's equipping them, and then we go to our dummies and first want us to just use our at-wills right there. Unfortunately we don't have an AOE at-will, but it's no way as impactful as the AOE Encounter Power we get. 300 magnitude and will hit everybody within 15 feet of us. You can see hits each and every one of those. And as soon as you get to level 2, which is very early on, you'll unlock stealth and then you'll be able to use Blade Fury from stealth without making it go on cooldown, so you'll effectively be able to cast it twice. I'll showcase that a little bit later on in the video, but I'll show you why the other classes really have their downfalls in the early game of leveling up. We go to the cleric, and you can see they start out with just daunting light, which has a minuscule radius, and from there when they level up, even getting to level 7, they still have absolute garbage AoE capability. The majority of this game is just killing lots of grouped up trash mobs, and so you want to have encounter powers to get you through that much quicker. So I do not recommend a cleric as a fast leveling experience. A barbarian can do pretty well for themselves. They do get not so fast, but keep in mind this is only 235 magnitude, whereas the rogue had 300. From there they get bloodletter, then they get mighty leap, which has 325 magnitude but a small radius and otherwise is pretty good, and I would rate the barbarian as maybe second if not third best to level up the fastest. Next we have the warlock, and here again just looking at their abilities, they start out with, as you can see, Arms of Hadar, which is tiny magnitude power. From there on you're just having a single target power. This is an AoE power, can do decent damage, but early on really not great. Hadar's Grasp, again not great, single target, and Death Defy, all pretty underpowered abilities compared to just what the rogue gets. Just having a quick look back on the rogue, you can see when they level up they end up getting, you can see here, Path of Blades on level 2, which is a super good AoE power, along with Smoke Bomb next on level 4, which again is a super good power. In endgame, on a maxed out build, when you have every single power to your disposal, you are using those 3 encounter powers: Blade Flurry, which you get on level 1, Path of Blades, which you get level 2, and Smoke Bomb that you get level 4. And that's it. None of the other powers match up to the AoE potential that those 3 powers can give you, and getting them early on is super advantageous on a rogue. Going back, you have the fighter, and this guy really struggles early on. He gets Shield Slam, which is a knockback ability, so you're ending up having to hunt after your enemies and kill them off one by one. They end up all spread out. It's ridiculous. And otherwise you're waiting for a feat for your shield throw. Otherwise the rest of them here you can see are just single target and really not going to help you with killing lots of enemies. Then you have the bard, and initially they had it pretty good. They had Duet, which was a really good AoE power early on, but they changed it so you don't get it to level 5. So you're suffering with Lunge, a single target, Dancing Light, single target, and Flourish not even going to affect anything. Until level 5 you get an AoE power, and up until then you're struggling to kill groups of enemies. Then we move to the paladin, and they don't have such a bad time. The problem is their base damage inherently will be 20% lower if you're on the tank than just DPS people, and that's just a negative that is overall just going to make it a bit slower. They start out with Burning Light, which is a good AoE stun power. You can charge it up for more damage, and then once you get to level 7 you get Bane, which is a high damaging AoE power. It makes leveling on the paladin once you get to that stage quite a breeze, but you have to get to level 7 before that, and so it suffers similarly of a slow initial leveling experience. Then you have the wizard, and this guy similarly struggles with not much AoE. You do get your repel, which you can slot in your tab ability once you get to level 2. Then it's a cone, but again you're just pushing back enemies, which means you're going to have to hunt them down and kill them. The rest of the powers are single target except your icy terrain, which is not that high magnitude, and otherwise you have the shield and the push effect from it, which again you're just pushing enemies away, which means you're ending up just taking longer to kill them. And finally we have the ranger, and up until level 2 you are in a bit of a pain since you're starting out with just single powers without being able to stance switch. Once you can switch to your melee stance, you get a pretty good repertoire of AoE powers. For example, your Hindering Strike, very high magnitude, just small radius. You end up with your Marauder's Rush, be able to engage into a fight nice and quickly, and Steel Breeze, which is alright damage with a good ranged area, and those are like the 3 powers you actually generally use just in questing on a ranger. So it does have a good repertoire as well, but it just doesn't have the edge that the rogue has. We'll quickly go through the tutorial with rogue and showcase how smooth it can really become on your rogue. So once we've gone and done this, we need to make sure to cast our at will powers again. They just want to repeat us on that initial tutorial quest, then use our 2 encounter powers, and we're off. The guard moves out the way and we can head into the forest. Now, if you really want to speed through here, you just ignore these enemies. There's no need to kill them until you get to this point. You can use your shift power, at least on PC, to be able to dodge, and you can see we deal heavy damage to these guys just with our encounter power, and we can finish them off then with our at will. And as soon as we get that ability to cast encounter power twice, they're all dead super fast. Again, just ignore those enemies, leave them to their dealings, and we just need to get the heck out of here, make our way over to Makos, and here we end up on the wall, and we need to go and protect him. We don't get to level 2 just yet, which is unfortunate. Once we're here, we just have to kill waves of enemies. You can just go and group them up and then kill them all at once. So once they're grouped up, we use that power, and then we can just get out of dodge and wait till we get that power again. There we get our encounter power again, and then we can go kill a bunch of them. But there's no real need to kill them too fast here, as essentially the quicker you kill them, the quicker they just spawn back again. You just gotta defend Makos for the timer. So just go kite around the enemies. Once that timer is going down there, you'll end up with a ton of enemies that will spawn at once. Not a chance you're going to be killing all of those guys, but Makos to the rescue once the timer's gone, and he kills all of them, and we can just continue on. We speak to Celeste, and then we gotta head to the bridge, and here we're going to run into quite a lot of enemies. What you can do, especially with an AOE power starting out in the game, literally run past most of them. Makos will distract a bunch of them, and otherwise you can see the horde gathering behind us. Again, perhaps not advised to do this as a new player, but it's totally feasible, and especially with an AOE power starting out as an encounter power. We get to this horse guy, we may as well use our single target power on him, let the enemies group up. We might get low HP, but we got potions for a reason, so we go use that, get out of there with our dodge. Now we gotta wait for our power to go off cooldown. We'll just hunt down this knight guy. There we go. We stick a knife in him. We may as well drink a potion here. Then we group them up again. Use our AOE power. Bunch of them there on half HP. Makos helping out a little bit. Use that power on that big guy. Once we got our Blade Fury back again, we can probably kill a bunch of these guys and just swing with our at will. There should be not so many now. We can use another potion. No, don't worry about just trying to save those potions or anything. They're dirt cheap. Once you got those guys killed, we can proceed to the next phase, and you can see how much quicker it is there. Imagine having to kill each and every one of those zombies one at a time. It ends up such a slog. And once we get to like the mini boss here with Valindra, not sure if we get our daily power here, can't quite remember, but we go to fight our boss. No, unfortunately we don't get our daily power, but again we still have our pretty high damaging encounter power here. That gets him down like a third. We'll use our AOE one. It doesn't do nearly as much damage. We can just dodge or just even just tank his hits there in the face. We get our encounter power back again. That gets him down. He didn't crit this time, so he didn't do as much damage. And with the last one, we kill him and we can get out of here, speaking to Makos. Once you do so, you end up in Protector's Enclave. This is kind of the hub area, and here you then have to go to like the hub adventuring place to go and speak with Mr. Sergeant Knox, who's going to be your general quest giver to send you off to the new zones. And here we get to level 2, and we can head off on our journey. Once you got to level 2, you got that Path of Blades, which is an excellent AoE ability. You'll basically cast these blades and you see them all spiking up. When you have like multiple enemies around you, using that, you can see they all take damage and they just die pretty quick depending on their HP. And at level 2, you also unlock your stealth ability just here, which is your tab, which allows you to essentially use your blade flurry from stealth. So we go into stealth, pressing tab, we go invisible, we can use our blade flurry, and then you can see it doesn't go on cooldown, and we can use it again. Using that, you can kill groups of enemies so quickly, even just with one hit. And a big reason is because you will make full use of your combat advantage stat, even though when you're low level, it's only 45%, but that's 45% more damage than other classes are dealing. And you can just literally rock up to a group of enemies and go goodbye, and they're all dead. Now, it might take you a second hit, and that's why having that ability to use it twice is really beneficial. And otherwise, you have your Path of Blades to use to just deal all the damage around you, and they just literally die as you walk past them. It's great. You might need a Blade Flurry to finish them off though. I would like to give an honorable mention to the Ranger, however, as they do get an at-will, which you can use from a distance to hit multiple enemies. And so when facing groups, you can use that power to whittle down their HP rather than waiting for, let's say, some encounter power to go off cooldown. But you can say it's not really that easy in practice, but you can get used to it and you will get a bunch of your AOE powers nice and early, especially when you get to level 2 and you can switch to melee stance, and that way you can use axes and use your bow from a distance and switch between, and it can be very useful. You just don't get the added effect of that combat advantage that the rogue does by going invisible. Now, remember once you're leveling up to claim your boxes, like this one's our reward 1 box, and we should be able to get a reward 2 box. Now, very unfortunately, they started this event out with not giving you incentives, as we just saw there. Now, if we go on the live server, I believe they made a fix for this. For example, we go create a random new character just here to pick a random name, and off we go. We can see that when we get that level 1 box, it should now give us these incentives. It does. It should give you up to a total of 100 incentives once you get to level 20. And so with that unfortunately being broken at the start of the launch of this event, many of you might have started out leveling your characters. And unfortunately, there's no sign of there being any reimbursement or any like reissue of the incentives you missed while leveling. That's just a bit of a bummer, and it might very well be the case that you'll have to level up another character to the point where you started getting incentives again. Incentives I highly recommend spending on companion upgrade tokens, as you really need a lot of them, and as a new player, getting those companion bonuses right here on high levels is really important, especially when running scaled content, as that will help you out massively. You can like get this epic companion, but it's an absolute waste. Same with the epic mount, an absolute waste. Don't go buying the improved bag of holding. Absolutely not worth the cost of 100 upgrade tokens. You're nearly getting 1,000,000 Astral Diamonds worth of upgrade tokens just from this, and you can level up a second character and spend those tokens, and those tokens you can move to your main character if you already have a main character in this game, and you can move it just through the shared bank up here, being able to slot them into just here, shared companion upgrade tokens, and then you can transfer them across your characters. So overall, that's my advice on the fastest character level up, and unfortunate case with those incentives. They did get the fix out pretty quick. Fortunately, it's not like a few days later, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like they're going to reimburse anybody who has already leveled up. I could have got my character to maximum level before they made this fix. You can level up in like 4 hours or something. I intend to make a video to showcase how quickly you can level up. But with this said, I just wanted to give my opinions and thoughts of which character is in general the fastest to level up. If you've got any other contradictory opinions compared to the rogue, sure, let me know in the comments below. So again, I'd like to give a massive thank you to all of these channel members for helping me keep my channel going. And if I present this well, consider leaving the video a like, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.